And there we are, finally live. All right. Well, welcome to the Colecast podcast. This is pretty much how everything's going to end up going here for the first couple shows, I'm sure, if not forever. I'm just going to kind of go through a few things here real quick. I want to thank my good man, Bruce Hoyer at Next Edge Academy for hooking up this podcast, kind of getting everything going. As you can see, he's producing it, did an awesome job loading up the video. So there he is. Good stare at the back of his head. Regardless, I hope to have a little fun with this, but I also want to reach out to some folks and make sure that we just get to learn about them. Like I said on my website, that I kind of want this to be about getting to know people, hearing the stories, what their background is. I'm a guy who's an expert in nothing. I want to know a little bit about everybody, a little bit about something that they're doing. Kind of like my man Bruce here, I told him I wanted to talk to him one day about his story and what's going on. He's got a pretty interesting background with his martial arts and everything he's done. He's done a lot of great stuff for the community around here, and just even for the people that come in here and end up training in his gym, whether they are fighters or not. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. One of my things is I like to dabble a little bit of everything, whether it be the medical field. I like psychology, business, cars, art, music, you name it. But regardless, I just want to kind of get to know a little bit of everybody and have somebody talk about their craft and do their thing. Like I said, this will be kind of a little wild, wacky start to everything, but I don't know. I'll be happy if I get 2 or 3 listeners, somebody coming in, so I definitely do appreciate that as well. Anyway, so like I said, I would kind of like to learn about people's crafts. I would like to learn about their journeys, learn about what their specialty is for the most part. Like I said, with Bruce, he's been a longtime business owner, small business, and he's had his thing. He's had his jiu-jitsu gym, mixed martial arts, dabbled a lot with his own podcasting. And like I said, he's been super awesome about just doing above and beyond things for his students. So we are going to talk about some serious stuff, down the road. Other times we're going to talk about silly things and just do whatever. If you guys are listening, you can either write on the chat here or I believe Bruce had a call-in number for us.
Yeah, the call-in number is 605-681-6131, and I'll flash that up on the screen here in just a little bit.
So, as you can see, I got the light shining off me. I just got done drilling a little bit of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here, which is super fun, but also some of that is probably just a little bit of nerves. Like I said, I don't expect too many people out there to be listening, but if you are listening, I do appreciate it. I have quite a lineup of guests, actually, that I want to talk to, some of which, do come from a martial arts background. Others have been out just grinding, doing their thing, and I have some friends that are entrepreneurs that are, hooking me up with a few things, and I kind of hate that term because it's super overused right now. But, just people that are trying to make their way. I think everybody has their own pretty good path that they're kind of grinding through. So I'm really hoping that we can hear about that and kind of see what's going on in the community as well. I really, really enjoy the Sioux Falls community, and sorry, I got the sweat rolling yet. I've taken another shower after this. A couple people I'd like to also thank besides Bruce is Curtis over at Ink and Iron. He's working on a logo for me, so hopefully get that kicked off. He's a pretty good longtime friend. Then my friend Travis over at 6AV, he's working on some website and domain stuff for us, so which is super awesome. He saw that I uploaded some stuff to Wix, and he instantly texted me and said, "Friends don't let friends use Wix." So, which I'm sure Bruce would probably agree with that.
Yeah, terrible stuff. There was a friend of mine actually that was doing kind of the same thing, and I didn't like it, not one bit. So it just if you can, always use a web developer, or even at the minimum, do a WordPress website. I don't know. That's probably what he's building for you, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So one of the things that he does, he definitely dabbles in a little bit of everything. He has his full-time job, but he guy's doing 1,000 different things all the time. Kind of like you. He just has ideas just rolling nonstop, and one of his things is, so he was just nice enough to throw it out there and kind of hook me up with it. So just super great. And then I'm trying to think. On top of that, his full-time job, yeah, he's just doing numerous things, just whatever's going on. So for him to take the extra hot minute, quick shout out to Travis. I really, really appreciate that with 6AV. And then one other thing I forgot about today is it's my man Aiden's birthday. So if Mr. Aaron's son, he turned 13 today, so I promised him I'd give him a quick shout out. So if he's out there, happy birthday, dude. Trying to think kind of where else I want to go. Like I said, this was just kind of going to be a quick introductory episode, one of those episodes for me to crap my pants for 2 or 3 seconds on the camera here in front of everybody, and then kind of keep filling some stuff out, kind of work through a few things, see what's going to work, what's not. I'm hoping to get maybe an episode or 2 out for every 2 weeks or so, week and a half, kind of work it out and see what happens. Of course, that's contingent on what mine and Bruce's schedule are, and of course, guest schedule as well. But I've probably got a good 15 to 20 people that have verbally committed to what they want to try to do, or come in and talk about what they do. It's super interesting to me that I come from a medical background, so I know a lot of different people with a lot of different background stories. It's probably one of my favorite things to do is chat with them about what their history is, and just kind of talk about, what they're doing, where they're at, make them happy, and so many different people that are doing so many different things. So one of my guests that I plan on having on here pretty soon is Gary, who Bruce knows quite well. He has quite an interesting background. And then a good friend of ours, Shayna Baszler as well. She verbally committed, so she'd come on back, and she would love to be on the podcast as soon as she's back home. She'd let us know, so which I do appreciate that. One of the other things is, as you can see, the Fighting for Our Homies with Extra Chromies shirt that I'm sporting today. Just happened to be wearing it by chance. Just grabbed some stuff on the way in. But Devin Terrell Clark, Mr. Brown Bear, fights with the UFC from here in Sioux Falls. He said he would love to be on the podcast as well. He's just a great dude. He's a family guy, does his thing, has a great work ethic, and just super humble. Like, just does his thing. I actually knew his wife before I met him through the medical field, and she's, or wife to be, sorry, excuse me, but pretty solid gal herself. So it'll be fun to get him on to talk a little bit about the t-shirt brand that he's got hooked up with, and kind of the things that he is working on with that, and then his UFC contract, and kind of the cool things he's doing for a lot of that. But there's just so many people around this area that have a lot of interesting stories and a big thing that they're working on. So everybody's got their dream, their goals, and you're going to go out and fail. I'm probably going to fail at this. I'm failing right now on the podcast, ideally, but and so I'm just going to keep grinding, keep doing my thing. Hopefully, have some laughs along the way, and try to develop that as best as I can. I got to get used to looking at myself on camera back and forth and all these different ones, but it's kind of different.
Yeah, we got 3 different cameras for you to look at, and that's is that too many cameras for you?
No, it's okay. Like I said, I just got to get used to it and get back and forth, and it'll be more fun when we have an extra guest on. So we got kind of solo stuff happening. But speaking of which, what do you got going on with the gym? We got some TBA stuff coming up and everything, right? You guys are pretty busy. You just had a tournament and.
Yeah, this coming up, we have June 3rd. Keith Potem is going to be on. He'll be on the UFC Fight Pass, fighting for Victory Fighting Championships. That'll be June 3rd, a Friday night show, I believe. And then I think after that is TBA, and the same weekend is that? There's another grappling tournament that same weekend. So, yeah, it's going to be. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to try to have maybe Derek do the TBA thing and then me do the grappling tournament thing,
Sure.
or if I'm going to try to do just the grappling thing, or just I don't know yet. So this is one of the first few times that we've actually had to worry about such things where we have so many people going that we don't have enough coaches for it. So it's kind of a good thing, but at the same time, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, no,
I
I
would-
definitely would agree with that. That's tough.
I always like supporting our guys. So
Yeah, and that's probably one of the best things I like about this gym. I know to some people out there, especially a lot of my friends, if they ever ask, like, what are you doing? You go to the gym, stuff like that. I've been fortunate enough to lose some fair amount of weight, but like one of the things is stay consistent. But I've been coming to Next Edge now for a long, long time. So, I'd say it's going on.
yeah, probably 5 years, 6 years.
No,
Longer?
longer than that, because I actually met you prior to Next Edge starting up, and then I was with you on the other side of town.
Yeah, I have no concept of time anymore. Somebody was saying like the other day that hey, Forrest Griffin retired 5 years ago, and that to me seems like it was like 6 weeks ago. So I have no idea. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's been almost 10 years, because I know it was just right around the time that my wife and I just gotten together. We just celebrated 10 years here shortly, but
Whoop, whoop.
it's probably one of my favorite things, though, about this place is, if I can take a hiatus or whatever, but I was welcomed with open arms, met my best friends here. Met a lot of interesting people, all different shapes, sizes.
Well, now you're making it sound weird.
No, well, I've come in all different shapes and sizes since I've been here, so that's kind of the fun thing. But seriously, though, there's a lot of good folks that come, galloping through here. If you want to, you should definitely come down and check it out. Bruce's gym is down here on is it 909 East 8th Street, so just down the road from Monk's and stuff like that. So you see the big front outside. It's really cool looking inside. So and tons of places to sit. So even if you just kind of want to hang out and watch a few things, he's got Kumdo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing. He's always up to something. He's got kids Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is super, super fun. And that's actually a huge thing right now, because those kids are like sponges. It's pretty fun. But there's a lot of people that come down here just not even to do their to learn how to be a fighter or be whatever, because that's probably the most interesting thing about this place is you end up learning everybody down here is pretty humble for the most part, and nobody's down here to hurt each other. Everybody's here to support and lead. And like I said, I've met my best friends down here, which is pretty awesome. People tend to bend over backwards for each other down here, which I really, really appreciate. So again, you should either look them up on the website at nextedgeacademy.com or just come on down. Everybody's really nice.
Yeah, we that's probably the biggest thing that I stress is when we started the gym that everybody had to be. Ideally, I'd rather have the person be a good person and be a terrible fighter than a great fighter and a terrible person, I guess. So
I would second that. Everybody's looking to lift each other up. Like today, today was probably my first day back grappling in probably, 8 months or so.
right.
Which was super interesting and fun. 'Cause it seems like I've been a beginner in grappling like 1,000 times over, but I should be really good at my guard, but I'm still not. But anyway, once I it's about the consistency, but I'm always welcome back with open arms. People are super awesome about everything. That's, like I said, there's even new faces that I see that are in here, and the first thing they do is they shake my hand and like, "Hey, how's it going, man?" They just want to know about you, see how it's going. And I don't want it to sound like it's a culty feel or anything like that, but it's definitely a community. And that's probably when you put up a slogan a while back, don't find a gym, find a community. It was easily one of the truest things that I could say about this place is that you definitely do find a community, and it just happens to be a gym. So
Cool. Well, thank you very much. That was now I feel all clapped, all got me right in the heartstrings.
Well, this place has meant a lot to me. And I know it's meant a lot to other people. So keep up the good work. I know you put in a lot of time, energy. Like you said, you got a lot of stuff coming up here, and you're being stretched in 1,000 different directions. And now I'm going to pull you in another direction, which is helping me do the podcast, and you're hooking me up with all this awesome stuff. So that's huge. I don't deserve it by no means, but like you said, this place is definitely community, and you're helping me out with that. And I'm hoping to reach out to a few more people. Hopefully we'll get some more interesting guests and stuff on here instead of just looking at my stupid sweaty face here, but and fidget around. But I'll get used to that stuff. I did a little broadcasting, years ago, and it was pretty fun. I didn't have the video with it, but I'm going to go ahead and hopefully we'll try to find our cadence, kind of start beating things out. The show will start shaping itself. I plan on not stumbling through things nearly as much, but I was just super excited. Bruce said, "Hey, we going to do this thing or what?" And I was like, yeah, it's anybody who knows me, I just love to talk to people, and that's what I'll do. I'll talk to you. And my wife gets super, super irritated with me because it doesn't matter where we go. I always stop and I'm talking to somebody who I might know, or if not, I'm just chatting with them. There's a time we landed in Amsterdam. I happened to know somebody who was in the Amsterdam airport. My wife was just so disgusted in me for that. Not disgusted, more irritated, just because she's like, seriously, like, we can't go anywhere without you stopping and talking to anybody. And she said I'm too nice to tell them I don't have time for chit chat. But I don't know. I think it's a good problem to have, just because if it wasn't for reaching out and meeting some friends and doing some stuff, I wouldn't have cool opportunities like this. I wouldn't have met and had the different experiences that I've had. So pretty fortunate that way. And I don't know if you got if you are listening, if you have an interesting story, somebody who does have kind of an interesting story, I'd love to sit and talk with them and just kind of get their word out. There's a couple other folks that are out there that I'd love to chat with, like Mr. Bulldog Mashad. That guy he's always up to something and pretty entertaining.
Yeah, he just got, he's like an ambassador for one of the tribes now. So
I saw that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the coolest thing about Mashad, or just even the South Dakota area or the Midwest area, is that no matter what somebody's up to around here, they're always bringing it back to the roots. Doesn't matter where they're off to, what's happening. So I definitely have great appreciation for that. And like I said, this community's done a butt ton for me. So I'd love to give back and just kind of promote some of the stuff that's going on around with that. Really fortunate enough to know a lot of the small business owners. I know a lot of different people in both the healthcare systems, or all three that are in here in town, and know a lot about that stuff. So like I said, some podcasts are going to be really somewhat educational. Others are going to be silly and fun. Sometimes they're going to be both, I hope. I'm a pretty silly and fun guy, even though I'm probably not coming off like that right now. But once I kind of warm up to the camera and staring at myself and stop fidgeting so much, we'll definitely get a little more silliness into this and kind of get some decent ideas rolling. So this was kind of like the icebreaker, reaching out, saying hello to some folks. We've got 20-some minutes of rambling and stammering, but I hope, that's kind of the sweet part about the podcast. You can kind of fast forward and decide what's pertinent to you and not. And that's kind of one of the things about the episodes, too, that I hope to do is be able to label those well enough to make sure that people can decide what's pertinent to them. If you want to learn something new, if you decide you like MMA, if not, you're curious about it, you want to learn something about what's going on in emergency medical services, what's happening in the state of South Dakota as far as that stuff goes. Mental health, I have some great people in mental health that are going to come and kind of talk about some things that are pretty important to me, because it's there's a lot of stuff going on. I think it'll be great to have Mashad on, talk about his new ambassador situation he has going on, and just being down south and driving back and forth. Like I said, that guy's got stories for days. I'm sure that he could talk about a few things.
Yeah, I've got, it's kind of funny that you always talk about, or that you talk about him bringing it back too. I can remember distinctly one time that he was getting talked to by a sports psychologist, actually. So you would have thought that he would have known a little bit differently, but he talked to David and he said, "Man, I'm just so glad that you got out of that world, that you got out of the res and that you were able to do something." And that man was pissed because if there's one thing that I know
should have
about,
been.
yeah, it's not about him trying to get away from where he came from. It's about trying to bring up the issues that are happening in that area and trying to make that area better rather than trying to say, oh, let me just go ahead and discard where I came from. That was that was probably the only time I think that I've had to worry about whether or not I was going to have to hold David Michaud back from hitting somebody. Other than that, he has been the most, probably the nicest, one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. But at that exact moment, he pretty much wanted to kill that guy. So
That's pretty disappointing coming from a psychologist in that way. But I think it was probably a learning moment for that guy more than anything.
right,
I don't know. I think it's awesome what Dave does as far as that. Even I know he's working his butt off trying to get some new contract stuff like that, and just getting his hand. I mean, that guy's just always doing something and working super hard. And again, he's just one of those guys. He doesn't care if he comes in when he had his UFC stuff going on. He just showed up. Hey man, what's going on? Said hello to everybody and just trained right along next to you, and just super fun to be around. I think I don't know. Huge shout out to that guy for real. I hope he keeps doing his thing, and I would love to get him on here and kind of talk about what's going on in that. Even for myself working in EMS, I've told him that I've de-escalated some situations where I've had some Native Americans I picked up that weren't so happy, and then talking and kind of start to de-escalate it and chatting with them, and they say, "Oh yeah, I'm from Pine Ridge area," and then so David Michaud, and they'd give me this look, and I'd say, "Yeah, it's a friend of mine." Kind of train with him a little bit. He's a good guy and does a lot of good things. And all of a sudden, this person who's probably having a terrible, terrible day and can't stand me because people are just always messing with him downtown, typically transient. And, I hate to use Dave's name just not to de-escalate a situation, but just to connect with him on something. And, Dave's done a lot of good for that community, and people are, even if he thinks he's doing something or not, or doesn't understand the impact he might be having, but, I can think, just a month or two ago, I talked to somebody that was pretty grumpy, having a pretty bad day, and all I had to do was bring out Dave Michaud, and it made both of our lives a lot easier at that point, so, which is pretty nice. And I think, again, that comes back to the MMA community, and that's what martial arts is all about, which is excellent. So everybody thinks that we just come in here and just pound on each other and act like a bunch of rabid baboons, but totally not true. They're you got your stipulations with certain things, but typically that's one thing I've always really appreciated about the gym and about Bruce is that you guys always you give people chances, educate them, and do what they have to do. And, if they were able to ship up and kind of be a good part of the community, they're always welcome with open arms. And so, again, huge shout out to you on that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm so used to doing podcasts where I have to talk all the time. It's odd where somebody else has to talk. And I basically, for the most part, get to sit back here. I get lost in switching cameras for you and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And
that's because I got to find my cadence yet. Like I said, I got to learn how to relax and
give it a little.
I've never been
There we go.
Reeves Tees right here. The best part about these. Thanks for the shout out there. Best part about this group is that they are when Devin Clark, one of our gym members, he has partnered up with these guys, right, Bruce? Mm-hmm. And that's something I want to talk to him about when he gets on the podcast here. It's just a little bit of his involvement with this, but he's done some great things. He goes down to Jackson Wink, and it's pretty fun seeing him promote these T-shirts. And what these T-shirts are all about is they are put together, and it basically benefits the Down syndrome community, correct?
Yes, I believe so. I know that him and Kevin Kroger have been working close together. Those two met and became good friends, I think. And one of Kevin's kids was born with Down syndrome, and so they basically just ever since that, I believe Kevin was a cause or a kind of push for that cause, and with that, kind of got involved, met Devin, and now those two are kind of pushing together.
It's super interesting how stuff ends up working out like that. Some people would unfortunately consider that a tragedy, but my wife can tell you, like, I have such an insane soft spot for people with Down syndrome, just because, not that I feel sorry for them, but because I absolutely appreciate and love them, just absolutely love them, because every time I work with them, they're always super fun, super nice, super kind, super happy, hard working, doing their thing. And I really, really appreciate that, and I wish like that would carry over in a lot of other people's worlds themselves. Like they could learn a lot from the people with Down syndrome community, which would be pretty awesome. One of my other friends, her son, he went through a lot of stuff. They didn't expect him to live very long, and now he's living a pretty somewhat healthy life. He has Down syndrome himself, and for what they went through in the NICU and everything like that, she stayed super positive, and she ended up taking that situation, which was really, really tough. I couldn't imagine being in her situation, and she ended up really making something the most out of it, and she really gave back to the nursing community and the healthcare system that she had worked with, which is really awesome. We have 2 freaking awesome NICU units here in town. Like, that's one thing I absolutely love about Sioux Falls is the healthcare community is ridiculous. Like, I don't think people understand like how good the access to care that we have around here. But anyway, we'll get into that later. She ended up doing a lot of, she ended up being like on a patient care committee and stuff like that, and kind of a patient advocacy, and she's just doing so much with that stuff now just because of the community that she and the care that she had received. So which I think is great. Again, speaks a lot for the community around here. But anyway, totally jumped out. I got to make sure I got to get that figured. But again, back to the fighting for the homies with our extra chromies with Reeves tees. So Devin jumped on this, and basically with this T-shirt, it got packaged up, and it was super cool when I got it because I was ridiculously excited. Because huge fan of Devin Clark. The guy's always been so ridiculously awesome and nice to me. I think I met him 5 years ago, maybe. And every time I see him, he's just always super nice, super awesome. See him in public, he's with his family. Take a second and be like, hey, what's going on? Just super down to earth. Doesn't get all worked up in the stardom stuff, which is ridiculously awesome. But he ended up, these shirts get packaged by individuals with Down syndrome, and they send a little card with it, and it was beautifully packaged, had a little ribbon and stuff on it. And then I ended up getting a card with his name written on it with a picture of the gentleman who had packaged my shirt, which was a sweet extra touch. So I ended up having that pinned on my family picture board at home. I got one in the kitchen, so I have it up there. It's it's kind of stupid, but I don't know. I just have great appreciation for that, and I really, really like. It's a nice thing that those guys are doing. So you should check out Reeves Tees and really support that stuff. And again, support Mr. Clark for doing that stuff. He's back in town now, isn't he, Bruce? He just got done with a thing down in Las Vegas here.
Yeah, they had the UFC expo, or not the expo. We used to help run the expo, but they had like basically a vacation time where they come in and they can hang out. It's a little retreat, I guess, is I think what they call it.
Yeah, fighters retreat.
Yep. And so not only are they learning about social media awareness, things like that, they're also just taking a little bit of time off and having basically a little bit of vacation as well, because a lot of times these guys are in camp so much that you're either fighting or you're in camp, things like that, so you don't get proper time for vacation all the time. So just got back from that. So he splits time between Jackson's and here, so he's been in for the last few weeks back here. Then I suppose once he gets notice of when he's going to have his next fight, he'll probably end up going down there for a while, because right now they have so many good guys down there at his weight.
That place is ridiculous.
Yeah, so everybody from, I know that John Jones is down there, and Cowboy Cerrone.
Cerrone. Yeah,
No-
it's just a murderer's row down there, and I mean that in
Exactly.
the nicest way. It's a pretty good group. I've listened to some of the other podcasts with those guys. Even Cerrone had his stuff going on. It was just so much fun listening to like the karate hotties stuff, and it's really interesting listening to the community that they have down there, and even for the lab, following those guys and where Mashad trains. It's just so much fun seeing those, like John Crouch. Even I'd met him one time, and that was with you and with David. And very, very nice, humble guy. And when the USC event was up here in Sioux Falls, I was wearing my uniform, working backstage, doing my thing. And I saw him clear off in the distance. And I mean, I've never had to do it. I've helped out with a kickboxing match, but I know that I can't imagine the stress and like everything going on, and you're preoccupied with your athlete, trying to get them ready and prepared and keep them in the mental game. So I saw him way off in the distance, walking backstage with his one of his team athlete, and, trying to get them ready and prepared. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he just kind of caught me out of the corner of his eye, and it had been like months since he'd been here. And he like looked again. Then I just kind of like give him a head nod, and he comes right up, shakes my hand. He's like, "Cole, how's it going, man?" And like shakes my hand. I just could not absolutely believe it. Like it speaks in absolute volumes for what kind of guy he is. So I know, like you said, if anybody moves, like you absolutely like, just because of the atmosphere that those people have down there in the lab, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's funny too because we just got done talking to those guys that Power, the guys that train down at there, which is only probably a few miles away from the lab. It's funny to me because we have two guys, or actually more than that now, that are down there. So we have Bryson Jordan at the lab, or excuse me, at Power, and then David at the lab, and they're all within a few miles of each other. The funny thing about it is both their gyms right now are actually downsizing, so they're going to be in gyms. The lab will be a little bit bigger, but the Power will actually be about the same size as our gym. So that'll be super interesting to see what they do. Taking a big gym and super concentrating it into a smaller area. I'll be interested to see how that goes.
Yeah. That's probably one of the other fun things I really like is following the people that I've got to know through here over the past decade or so, just seeing where they've gone with their careers, whether it be MMA or personal and everything else. Ben Wynn going off and doing the Tiger Muay Thai stuff. And I knew him when he was on the Geek Squad, and just a humble, happy little teenager and smirking around and doing his thing. And now he's off doing super awesome stuff. Met his wife. She's super cool. She's an absolute beast of a striker too. And she's this tiny little cute Australian thing and just absolutely smashes pads. And he just showed a picture the other day where they both had their belts and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. It's nice to see him come back and do his thing with the community as well. One of the other things about the Fighters Retreat I thought was fun to see all these live videos that were kicking up, and people had been here, like Nina and then Devin and stuff like that. Just seeing people that have been around here doing their thing, and I'm super proud of them. Like they didn't give up. Like they've had a long road. I know a lot of people think that they came in here, won a couple fights, and went on, but it goes way, way deeper, and it goes way longer than that. So.
Yeah, one of the, I can distinctly remember having several conversations with, those guys when all of them, minus Devin Clark, I think just because his, just never would ever bring that up, as he, he just kind of dominated for the most part. But, points where they're like, hey, I'm thinking about hanging it up, and decided that's when a lot of the guys decided maybe, okay, let me change around the atmosphere a little bit. Let me go to another gym and see if that makes things different. And it was it's awesome that they were still able to push past that and get into an area where they became successful like that.
I think some of them don't even do it. I think they do it on just personal reasons as well. Like I'm speculating, I don't know, but I think sometimes I've been there. Just I'm 33 years old and I still don't know what I want to do with my life. But I decided, I've gotten into halfway decent shape. I got a little ways to go yet, but I've got a pretty good job, a couple pretty good jobs actually, and then I wanted to push. I'm like, you know what? I've got a pretty good chance to just do something fun. I've been writing some material for some stand-ups, so I plan on doing that pretty soon.
Pretty good
I'll
job.
be honest with you.
Couple pretty good jobs,
I have to
actually.
say that combat sports is easy because I spar, I do that stuff, get smacked around quite a bit, in a fun way. Like, I couldn't imagine training that, but I would. If you lined me up tomorrow and you said, Cole, I'm going to set you in for 3 2-minute rounds with somebody else, same style, same athleticism, same record. You get 3 rounds, 2 minutes, 6 minutes. That's all you got. You want to go in there and just have it out with them, or do you want to go up and do 2 minutes to stand up? And I would be like, all right, let's go. I don't care if this other guy just beats the snot out of me, just because it does terrify me to get up there a little bit, because I'm just kind of like now just exposing myself and just throwing it out there and having a little fun. But it's kind of at the point in my life now where I want to be like, you know what, screw it. We've got good access to stuff. You get to do this stuff for basically for free, especially for me. Like I said, I got hooked up with some awesome production stuff that I certainly don't deserve. But I'm going to try to make it grow and keep doing those things. And that's kind of the nice thing about those guys. They've gone off and they've done their things, made some connections, met some other people, and just kind of walked their path. Nobody's got that easy path. I don't expect to get famous or rich or anything from this, but if I can make somebody's day a little bit better, learn something new about somebody else, my mission's been kind of complete for that. But yeah, once I decided to drop the ball and do a 5-minute stand-up set here in the local comedy club, which I'm super jacked that they opened up another one of those. I know they've been open and closed with different businesses, but this one seems like it's doing pretty well. There seems to be a halfway decent comedy scene in town. There's getting to be a lot of good entertainment around here, actually, which is super cool. Even this week, coming up here shortly in June, I think there's a big free concert and just get together downtown that they're having, which is, I really, really appreciate that. And there's just something going on all the time this summer, which is cool. A lot of people complain about how boring Sioux Falls or South Dakota area is, and I think there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and it'll be interesting to see where it's going to be in another 5 to 10 years, see how boring it is. But, I compliment you, Bruce. You and a few of your associates and other people have worked really, really hard to be able to get, the South Dakota Athletic Commission going and be able to bring in these good events, like the RFA and UFC coming to town. It's been huge.
Yeah, I was completely blown away when the UFC came here. I didn't think that, in any time soon that was going to happen, and for us to have no commission to 3 or 4 years later having a commission in a UFC event. I mean, if you think about it, I would say probably 90% of our events in this town, or in South Dakota, and all of our events in this town are, televised events. I mean, televised events at the highest level of production, pretty much. So that's kind of amazing. I don't know any other town basically that's going to be like that. So it's that's been a huge thing, but it's, like I said, we have a really good fan base here, and that helps a ton.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to see what everybody's up to lately. My friend Andy, coworker, he's a part of the underground wrestling squad here, which I didn't even know. Like, all of a sudden one day he just had this hilarious basically Facebook post of himself, like these pictures where I noticed he had grown a pretty sweet mustache at work, but I didn't question it. It's kind of like, whatever, do your jam, buddy. And then next thing you know, he's wearing a bomber jacket with tights on underneath and all this stuff, and aviators, and he's wrestling down at the Icon coming up, and it's just so funny because you'd meet the guy, you'd never guess he's that type of guy, but everybody's got their own jam, does their own fun thing, which is pretty fun. And even with, there's a few people that we ended up that were at the gym here that are wrestling now. Shayna, she's done some stuff over in Japan even, and wrestling's massive there, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, Isaac, I think, was on the Midwest Wrestling Championship scene for a while.
Yeah, I think he's...
Maru.
Yep, he's still wrestling. I know I see a lot of stuff posting with him, but, I've never talked to Isaac about that, but I am like 1,000% sure that my first job as like a 14-year-old, I worked at Taco Bell, and he and I had worked together way back when. And Isaac's one of those guys that when you meet him, you remember him. And I'm about 99.9% sure. So I need to ask him that one of these days. It just never came up in conversation, but
I do think he used to work at Taco Bell way back when.
that's so funny. Yeah, and then all of a sudden here we are at the gym again, and we're wrestling, doing our thing, grappling, and here Isaac is doing his thing. It's kind of fun, the studio office area that we have here at Bruce. That's pretty cool. He's got the whole laminate on the outside windows, but you see people walking by and doing their thing. Feel like we're like in a fishbowl, but we're watching other people pulling up, moving around, do their thing.
Yeah, they can. We can see them, but they can't see us.
As the whole two-way mirror. It's like that at my job too. I've got some two-way mirrors around there for training purposes and stuff like that. But it's kind of fun.
I need to add a camera to the outside so people can see if there's anything crazy that we see. Because on a daily basis out here, I see some some awkward stuff. So it's a really nice facility, but on the outside, sometimes it can get a little crazy. Nothing too scary, just a little crazy.
Yeah, some colorful personalities.
Yeah.
That kind of go around this area, but I don't know. I've been part of the ambulance system now for about 5 years around here, and you meet some colorful characters, but for the most part, there's a lot of fun people that are around here, and you get to know them. And like I said, some of our transient folks that are around here, they end up, they're part of the community as well, and they do their thing. You get to know them. And there was one time I was heading in for a wedding, and this one person was sitting there, and they were getting ready to. They're just hanging outside, and we're going in. And of course, people were kind of avoiding because they were somewhat intimidated. And of course, I went right up, called them by name, and shook their hand, and hey, how's it going? Chit chat. And of course, everybody looked at me all confused because of course they're again, how do they know Cole? Like, what is this guy? Like, why is Cole talking to that guy? Who is he? And then, sitting there doing our thing. And again, that's kind of how deep I am into this community that I absolutely love. Like, you just get to know people, and, everybody's human, does their thing. So they all have their stories. They're all pretty fun, especially if you get to know them, they're going to have your back, especially if you like, if we're on call, especially you said kind of some colorful areas of town that are, get not really sketchy, but they'll have your back. They know what's going on. Like, they get to know him. Like, hey, this guy is here to help us, and that's what they want to do. So it's probably one of my favorite parts. You can see where Bruce has the camera up.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it in. It's failing around that that area. So
you can kind of see cars rolling by, but it's basically a sidewalk that rolls around out front, and people see the martial arts gym. I've already seen it now a couple times where people are walking by out front, and of course they'll put their hands up and start doing karate moves, if you will, which is kind of funny, but without knowing that anybody might be watching them. But I don't know, it's kind of entertaining to see that stuff. Trying to think what else might be going on here, Bruce.
I don't know anything that's going. I should actually look and see what's going on downtown, but I don't really have anything. So, but
yeah, speaking of podcasts here locally in Sioux Falls and great community stuff, I know there's the Sioux Empire podcast that they have going on right now. You should check that stuff out.
Yeah, Rob does that one. I've talked to him a couple times about maybe switching and coming down here and doing it here. So.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I've listened a little bit of their stuff. I just get so darn busy and I end up listening to the same things, or I'll just absolutely immerse myself in one podcast and then not have anything else about it. And like, I know my coworkers and my wife get sick of listening to me talk about different podcasts. And I can assure you this wasn't one of those things where I'm like, that's pretty easy. I'll do that. But like I said, I just kind of wanted to be like, I'll just give it a shot and see what we can do and meet some people. But there's that one. And then there's also the... for whatever in my mind, when I came up with the Colecast podcast, it was just for whatever reason, I was having a tough time naming it. And then, my same friend that's helped me with the website, he's like, just pick a name and go with it. He's like, it doesn't matter in the end, just put out good stuff. And I'm like, well, whatever I come up with, the name's probably going to be a little better than whatever my content is initially. But I hope to outgrow that and be able to make some fun sort of brand here coming up. But yeah, the Downtown Block Party. That's going on downtown. I see that. That'll be good. Yeah, that's June 2nd. That should be pretty fun. Thomas Henches, I know, is playing that with Burlap Wolf King. I worked with him for quite a while. He's a pretty fun guy. I got to know him quite well. Used to work with him at Last Stop CD Shop, which actually 10 years ago, and that's where me and my wife got married, was at the founder of that place in his backyard. We ended up meeting through some mutual friends, and it was super, super, super great. So, again, the community provides. I'm going to make people think they're not from Sioux Falls area that we have some weird cult down here. Nobody's going to drink the water. You come down here, we're going to keep you forever. Just remember that.
Here, wait. I'll help you out a little bit with that. 1 second. All right, try that again.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's way better.
Oh, perfect. I like to talk like this to my child and put him to bed at night.
We have done a couple calls this way.
Well, here's the thing about that. I actually know a guy that has a voice that's pretty similar to this. Actually, he went to this gym for a little while.
Brady?
Yeah, it is insane. Super nice guy, but when you meet him, I kid you not, his voice is pretty close.
I'd attest. That's the same. There you go. Now switchers.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Because this is delightful. Just like our city. Mm-hmm. Man, I'm so glad you don't have that control board by me.
Because I would absolutely,
I'd
be going bananas on that.
you'd
I'd be
use that
losing,
the whole time.
I'd be losing listeners left and right. Just based on the fact that I'd just be going crazy on that. But that's why I've got you to pump the brakes. That's why I married my wife, because that woman she's my best friend. She's hilarious, but she's pretty good about putting things in context for me. She's like, just gives me that look where I'm like, just a little.
I think Aaron Pollard and I were streaming at an MMA event one time, and so he found out about that, and we decided to call Tracy, and which that's, if you need to, we can call your wife, but
she would kill me.
Yeah,
we'll do that another time though. Trust me, folks, you will be hearing about Regina. She's her own cartoon character in herself, and I've got my stand-up bits, which she absolutely hates that I even talk about them, but she is part of my bits. But I've got so many awesome characters in my life that I need to talk about her, and I'll often refer to her as the Germinator. She's from Germany, and she's super funny, but man, that woman will lay their hammer down if she needs to.
I think that's what wives are for, though. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. We have a little 4-year-old son, super awesome kid. If you see Dennis the Menace, that's my kid, just dressed in modern clothes, take away the bib overalls. But my wife gets super frustrated with him, but he's super funny, does his thing. He's like a sweet and sour patch kid where he will do kind of just silly, ridiculous things, and then out of nowhere, he'll just absolutely frustrate the living hell out of you. And then the next thing, everybody's like, oh. And he's like that everywhere he goes. Like his daycare says that. They're like, oh, he's super awesome. He's just mischievous, does these super hilarious things. And he's super animated with his face. But like my wife said, she drives him absolutely bananas. But then the thing that gets me is I'm like, the worst part is he's me. Like he is seriously a spit clone of me when I was a little kid, and I'm like, oh man, I kind of get where he's coming from, and oh god. So I think about all the stupid stuff I did growing up, and even now, I'm in some serious trouble.
Just paying penance for what you did in the past, I guess.
Yeah, except for I think my wife is paying for it, not me, because I typically think everything's hilarious. One day she called me, and I was at work. And my daughter, who's a sweet little angel, does her thing. She's more of an adult and a parent than we are. I mean, we're both pretty good, but my Izzy is just unbelievable. So I talked to my daughter or my wife, and she's like, "So, It was pretty quiet upstairs, so I went upstairs and I was looking for Izzy, and here she is, 7 years old. She's doing her homework because she wanted to hurry up and get her homework done so she can enjoy the weekend without any prompting. She's 7. She's in the Spanish immersion program. Plus, she does German, so it's 3 different languages. We say 4 languages when she said she was the only one for a while that could understand Liam. Nobody else could understand him because it was just complete gibberish some days. And she's doing her homework, doing the things, so she's like, well, there's one being good. Oh, where's the other one? It's a bit of a yin-yang situation. She goes walking around the corner and in the bathroom, and there Liam is in the bathroom. This is, I think he was like 3, and he ended up, he was using the bathroom, but improperly, and he was squatting in the sink, and my wife, of course, called me having a heart attack because she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm pooping. And Regina's like, I can see that. What are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. She's like, why are you doing it in the sink? And he's just pretty much like, why not? Like, thankfully, we haven't had to do that again, but that pretty much sums up Liam. Like, he's just kind of like, why not? So, yeah, it's kind of something I'm going to have to look forward to. Kid is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, you're at about pretty much an hour there.
Perfect.
You got about 25.
I think
or
ending on a
55
good
minutes.
my kid pooping in a sink story is a pretty good place to end for our first podcast. So, but like I said, folks, thanks for tuning in for stuff. Thanks a million again for Bruce. You guys should definitely check out Next Edge Academy down here. Just come visit, say hi, visit the Facebook website. Check out 6AV, Travis Dangle, and go on down to the Ink and Iron and see Curtis down there if you feel like getting a tattoo and stuff. He's doing some great stuff down there. Again, we'll be reaching out some other stuff. Go ahead and write me. And thank you again. I promise we'll be getting some better stuff on here. And thanks for putting up with me for about an hour. We'll keep rocking and rolling. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.